Well, it's been check notes about 1 hour into the offseason for the Miami Dolphins, and we have utter chaos because Tyreek Hill might have just requested a trade. You know what? I'm not even going to say might. I think he did just make a trade request. In a stunning revelation following the loss to the New York Jets, where Miami goes 8-9 and they miss the postseason, Hill talking to reporters in the locker room, basically he doesn't want to be with the Dolphins organization anymore. Full interview was via Omar Kelly, but Cameron Wolfe transcribed the quote saying that I'm opening the door. I'm out, bro. It was great playing here. But at the end of the day, I got to do what's best for my career. I'm too much of a competitor to just be out there. And it sure sounds like this is a trade request from Tyreek Hill. I mean, I get it. You may be frustrated. You might not want to be a Miami Dolphin anymore. But why would you make this statement? Why would you do this? Not even 2 hours after the final game concluded. It is selfish. It is ludicrous from Tyreek Hill. And I don't even care if he walks back the trade request. Him doing this right after the conclusion of NFL Week 18 makes me want him to trade him regardless. And by the way, we've actually already talked on the show, on the channel, about how a Tyreek Hill trade may happen anyway, even if he didn't request one, because of his contract, his age, and the fact that the Dolphins may want to get younger and go into a different direction at the wide receiver position. I'll tell you one thing, and we're going to talk about it throughout the entire show. I am very much okay with trading Tyreek Hill. But the reason why it might cause a little of concern for everyone is because the financial aspect of it is not good. The Dolphins don't really gain anything out of trading Tyreek Hill in terms of improving for the 2025 NFL season. Why is that? Well, Barry Jackson has the note here that there is a $27.7 million cap hit in 25 if Tyreek Hill is a Miami Dolphin. But there's an even bigger cap hit for the Dolphins if he is traded before June 1st. So say Miami trades him in a month or two to a team for draft capital, he still is on the books for Miami in terms of their cap for $28.3 million. Now, that does change if it happens post-June 1st. It's only a $12.7 million cap hit in 2025 for Miami. So what does that basically tell you? It tells you there is no incentive for the Dolphins to trade Tyreek Hill if the goal is to free up money for 2025 NFL free agency in 2 months, or to make a pick in the draft at 2025. And by the way, even if the Dolphins said, I'll take the draft pick for 2025 just to get Hill out of here because he requests a trade, it still doesn't benefit you that much because what is he even worth at this point? He's on the north side of 30. He's a small end wide receiver that kind of relies on speed, and he just had one of the worst seasons of his career. Now, Tua did miss 6 games, but he still had one of the worst seasons of his career. What are you getting for Tyreek Hill? Are you getting a first-round pick? Because if you are not getting a first-round pick for this 2025 NFL draft, why wouldn't you just hold on to him and use that trade after June 1st to kind of free up money post-June 1st and maybe get assets for 2026? I don't see a world where a Tyreek Hill trade ultimately benefits Miami for the upcoming season. It may benefit them in 2026, but not 2025. So you tell me, should the Dolphins trade Tyreek Hill following his comments to the media in the loss? Type T for trade, type K for keep, excuse me. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. I'll be honest, I am very much okay with trading Tyreek Hill. And you know what? I might actually welcome it. And I know I said that it will not benefit Miami in 2025. I might not care because I am sick of Tyreek Hill. He has, for better or for worse, been a distraction off the field at times for the Kansas City Chiefs, for the Miami Dolphins, and if he does not want to be here, then I don't want him. I only want players that want to be in Miami, if I'm going to be honest. And I don't know what's in the water in the 305, but between Jimmy Butler and Tyreek Hill, there's utter chaos in Miami, and I can't handle it anymore. And when Mike McDaniel was informed of the Tyreek Hill comments, here is what Hill tried to say, or Mike said. Excuse me. He said, I was informed that Tyreek Hill was unavailable. I was not informed of a new injury. There were guys on the field competing and trying to win the game. Well, one of them wasn't Tyreek Hill because he didn't really play in the second half. And I don't think he played at all in the fourth quarter as well because the Dolphins were out of the playoffs. And I think once some of those veterans looked up at the scoreboard in MetLife Stadium and saw that the Broncos were up 31-0, 24-0. I think some of those guys checked out and didn't really play, which would make a lot of sense because the Dolphins really went downhill in the second half. Utter, complete disaster. We'll talk more on Tyreek Hill in just a second, but we are sponsored by Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports platform, because you just pick more or less on at least 2 players to win up to 1,000 times your cash. And with the playoffs here, it's now or never. Don't miss out on the last few weeks of football action with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching the playoffs. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. Here's an example of how to play. I ultimately went 2 for 3 on this 3-player entry. If I did a flex play, I would have won money, but I did a power play, so I came up a little bit short thanks to Von HM. But you can combine across different sports leagues, football, basketball, hockey, professional, collegiate. It doesn't matter. But all I know is that you need to join me on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. One more time, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. As we talk more about Tyreek Hill potentially requesting a trade, I did want to share what Mike McDaniel said in response to being informed about the alleged trade request. Mike McDaniel said he does not want to match emotion with emotion, and a lot of people around the Dolphins staff, as well as players, including Jalen Waddle, who was asked on the situation, kind of leaned into the fact that it might just be frustration and emotion following the loss, rather than Tyreek Hill's actual true thoughts. Many people said that, hey, after 48 hours, after a week or so, when cooler heads prevail, Tyreek Hill may not want to actually be traded away from the Dolphins. And a very similar situation as Jimmy Butler, as we mentioned earlier in the show, as a little bit of a joke here about the water in Miami. But Butler, teams thought it was maybe just a crazy thought here. Let cooler heads prevail. But Tyreek Hill here, his contract is so unmovable, like it just feels harder to believe that Hill actually wants to be traded here. It seems like they might try to just hold on here and see if he can calm down and want to stay in Miami. And where I was going with that point is that Jimmy Butler said that he wanted to retire a Miami Heat player. He's no longer going to be wearing a Miami Heat uniform. Tyreek Hill said in the offseason that he is going to play the end of his football career as a Miami Dolphin, especially after that contract restructure in the offseason before this year as well. Well, now, could have both of those players respectively requested a trade? It feels kind of like that. So to me, it's going to be a very interesting saga, which is why you need to be subscribed, because when Dolphins news happen, we will have you covered. Join the channel, because if any more news and rumors come out around Tyreek Hill, we will break it down for you on the show. We'll close out the show with this. Tyreek Hill may or may not have just requested a trade. It is still unclear. We will have you covered over the next 48 hours to the week. But one thing is clear. There is a lot of rumors around the future of Mike McDaniel. There are a lot of rumors around the future of Chris Grier. If Chris Grier steps down as the Dolphins GM or gets fired, that new GM, that new director of player personnel, whoever is making the decisions, will be tasked with potentially deciding whether to keep or trade Tyreek Hill as their first major decision. This could be utter disastrous for the Miami Dolphins, and it only ensures that the Miami Dolphins need to find a competent GM to replace Chris Grier if he ultimately is no longer making the decisions. Because like I mentioned, it is going to be one heck of a big-time decision to make for whoever that person is if it is not Chris Grier. And oh boy, do they need to nail it. All right, that will do it for today's show. Listen, I know we just broke down the final game. The Dolphins picked number 13 overall. Still go and watch that video because we talked a lot about rumors and what's next for the Dolphins, but we had to make a video about Tyreek Hill potentially requesting a trade. So that's why you subscribe, because whenever Dolphins news drops, we'll let you know about it. So hit that sub button.